R. Davis Younts, YountsLaw.com, friend of the show. R. Davis, welcome and good morning to you. Good to have you back on the program.
Hey, good morning, brother.
Just when I thought it was like bad enough, then it gets worse. They are actively recruiting from this ideology. Help me understand, like, what is the Navy thinking in this story?
I don't even know. I mean, it's so hard to know where to begin. You know, before we even get to the sin issues and the other issues, it's just the practicality of it. I mean, when we talk about someone who is going through the transition process, which our military pays for right now, that's the current policy. I mean, you're talking up to $1 million, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to help someone transition, to go through that whole process, and they're not going to be fit. They're not going to be physically fit. They're not going to be combat ready for years. So we're going to go to the point where we're actively recruiting. We're going to spend money that's designated to the Department of Defense to defend our nation. We're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, up to millions of dollars, for these individuals to go through this process, and they're not going to be physically fit and ready. I mean, for me, it just like it starts there when we talk about just the practical aspects of this, get aside from just the clear sin issues that are present here and how morally wrong this is. That's what baffles me. That's where I just, from a starting point, I cannot begin to understand the logic behind this.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, just like you said, putting aside any moral, ethical sin issues, just put that to the side for a second. It makes no practical sense to try to recruit a fighting force in this way. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing ever. Just from a practical standpoint, we are facing potential war with China. Iran is always out there. Russia's on the horizon, getting worse and worse, heating up all the time. I mean, what are we like? Who is in charge? Who at the Pentagon? I mean, my head spins here. We have the U.S. Military Academy is supposed to be the highest possible standard. U.S. a Naval Academy, highest possible standard in training the next generation of our leaders of the military. Someone who is highly educated with decades of experience had to sign off on this. It makes no sense. It just literally makes zero sense to me. Like you say, the transition surgeries alone, millions of dollars. But in general, we're supposed to be a fighting force. This ideology isn't fostering a fighting force. It's fostering an ideology. It's fostering a disordered one at that. Our military is in grave trouble. Wouldn't you say?
No, and I think that's a great point. And that's what's been very hard for me to understand over the last several years, really over the last decade. We've reached this point where we're transitioning to recruiting for the military, where what we consistently do is lower standards. And it feels like we're recruiting based on ideas, concepts, things that people do that have nothing to do with the ability to successfully wage and win war. You know, I mean, you know that. You served, you're a veteran. That's the job of the military. The job of the Air Force is to break things and kill people. That's what the Air Force does. That's the job. That's the mission set as a tool for our nation. And it's supposed to be used justly. But if what we're doing is we're saying it's okay if you're out of shape, we're going to lower the standards. It's okay if you can't meet the standards, we're going to lower the standards to bring people in. And we're not even going to recruit in a way that encourages people to become better, to be able to earn the right to serve in the military. We're taking the honor out of it, and we're recruiting people based on characteristics that are not productive for the mission. There's something else entirely.
You know, I think it was Saturday afternoon, my son found in the closet, I had a brown envelope, and inside there was a picture of me and a 2-star general. The week I was graduating from boot camp, USMC San Diego, I was the company honor man, so I got to go visit the general, you know, and I was posing with this general in this picture. He didn't look at all impressed. It was hilarious to look at again after so many years. You know, and I remember when I joined the Marine Corps, Desert Storm was the thing. That's why I joined. And Bill Clinton was elected. And it was don't ask, don't tell. And we were all able to get along and go along with that. But we realized that there was a major issue in the military, especially I would say in the Navy, with homosexuality and how that affected the fighting force at sea in confined spaces. These were problems, let alone venereal diseases, the spread of AIDS, and other issues. Again, putting the sin issue to the side. It's as if they didn't learn any lessons from that period of time.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And there's so many policy decisions that are being made that just seem disruptive and destructive to the force. And that's a hard challenge. At the heart of them, so many times there's sin issues because we've just gotten away from that. There is no moral standard at play for most of our military leaders. So, they don't even know how to teach some of these basic concepts of honor, character, integrity anymore because they've lost that and they have no foundation to tie it to. And that's the chaos we see. But just practically speaking, again, how do we justify this? How is this what we're recruiting? We should be recruiting the best of the best to do the job physically, mentally, what it takes to do it. And instead, we're targeting and recruiting a subset that many experts, many people believe this is a sin issue and it's a mental health issue. And that's who we're going to recruit. I mean, that's not just dangerous, it's foolish.
I guess the Army missed its recruiting goal by 25% at the end of last year. And I think the Navy is also in trouble. It sounds like the Marine Corps is doing okay. I don't know how much has the Marine Corps embraced this woke ideology? It doesn't seem they've put out any like crazy recruiting videos in that way. Do you know?
I haven't seen as much from the Marine Corps as the other branches. As you know, my grandfather was a Marine. He was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. Marines' number one priority typically is being good Marines, and that's still the primary focus in the Marine Corps. So I think in some respects, there are significant leadership issues there. There are significant problems. But overall, I think still the kind of individual that it takes to get through Marine boot camp is a different individual. That's a small subset of the population, period. And I do think that helps.
I think that, I talk to my sons about this a lot. There's a strong attraction with young men to want to serve and especially serve a noble cause. But I got to remind them how often we are not serving a noble cause in our modern military. And I think this is an example of that. If the military's sexual deviancy is going to fall to this depravity, where's the nobility in the service at this point?
Right, that's exactly right. If what we're doing is supporting this mission, if we're putting on a uniform and we're standing by and we're told we have to stand by and embrace this ideology, this sinful ideology, this sexual depravity, that's a huge problem. And it becomes very, very difficult then to encourage our young men to serve in the military. I have a very difficult time doing that. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. You know that. I have a very difficult time advising young men to serve in the military today based on that, because it is very difficult.
Let's turn, while we still have time here, I want to turn to this other story that came out last week. It was kind of a big deal. This United States Marine on a subway ride was defending other passengers from a man attacking or being aggressive to these passengers. And apparently he had already been to jail once over attacking somebody. And now this man is dead. The Marine put him in a chokehold, and now the man is dead, and then the Marine is now facing prison time. Tell us about this story. What is the actual deal here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a tragedy because life was lost, and we could recognize that. What I understand is that this individual has been arrested or charged 40 times with crimes.
40.
This individual that died 40 times. That's what the news reports say. The indications of eyewitnesses and passengers, and of course, we don't know everything yet, but the eyewitnesses say this individual is being very aggressive and threatening. And that's what prompted action. When you actually look at the video, you see at least 3 men involved in trying to subdue this individual while help could come. They called the police. As far as I have seen, there wasn't punches thrown. There wasn't anything else. What you had is a young man, 24 years old, a trained Marine, trained in Marine combatives, using what we call a submission hold, a chokehold, to subdue an individual. That is not something that is typically used to kill someone. That's not the purpose of it. That's not the training that military members get in using that. That is a submission hold that is used to submit someone to calm them. So again, I don't think I've seen all of the video. I certainly haven't interviewed anyone involved, but it appears to me that there is a strong case for self-defense. This isn't something you do when you're trying to intentionally harm or kill someone. That's not what this looks like. This looks like you're trying to hold someone down, subdue them to protect you, to protect them until help arrives, until the authorities arrive.
How many times I don't know if it happens to you, but it's happened to me so many times. I'll be scrolling like on Twitter or something, and Twitter will show me some crazy video of people being attacked randomly on the streets, random violence or whatever. And there's someone there filming it and not someone there defending the victim. And I'm like, what? Why doesn't someone help out, put the camera down, go help? And they don't ever do it. And it's just, it drives me up a wall. And yet this man was not willing to stand by and watch someone else be attacked, hurt, harmed, or whatever, steps up, intervenes, and now he could go to prison. What do you think the chances are that he will end up in prison in this case?
Well, I'm gravely concerned about that. I mean, what we've seen is just a highly political media coverage of it so far. There's protests in the streets of New York, and we're talking about New York district attorneys right now, and there's a lot of political concerns. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of political pressure on this DA and this DA's office to move forward with murder charges, with homicide charges. And again, I don't know all the facts, but what I see, what's been communicated by this young Marine's attorney, I don't see indications that this was intentionally done to hurt or harm. This chokehold is not something you use to kill someone. They weren't holding him on the ground and beating him. They weren't holding him on the ground and kicking him. They weren't punching him in the head. They weren't stomping on him. There were none of those things. They're talking to him. Someone's trying to control his arm. They have him in this hold to subdue him until help arrives. They're calling authorities. So I agree. And the other thing that concerns me, I mean, as a husband, as a father, is, I want people to be willing to step up and try and diffuse dangerous situations and protect the innocent. And I'm afraid if he's charged, that puts a chilling effect on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Davis Younts, grateful for your insight into these stories. I'm glad we were able to get you on today. Thank you for your time. YountsLaw.com. I think you're out of the Philly area. Is that correct?
Closer to central Pennsylvania.
Central Pennsylvania. Beautiful country. Praise be to God. YountsLaw.com. If you need a military type of attorney, he's your guy. YountsLaw.com. Thank you, Davis Younts. God bless you. God love you, and have a good day, sir.
God bless you.
Coming up,